My name is Sarah Thompson and I'm an art buyer and a producer. So I work for a production company and we produce stills and motion for fashion and editorial and advertising. I kind of fell into this industry in the way that most people do. I don't think anybody starts out their career wanting to be an art buyer or wanting to be in production. Or maybe they do and they don't realise what it is, but I went to art school and I studied film and I had high hopes to be an art director. I wanted to do sets and builds and things like that. And I got into the industry as a trainee working for a film production company. And the executive producer there just sort of took me under his wing and said, "You're not going to be an art director, you're going to be a producer." I kind of became a hybrid sort of producer, like the skills that you have in production lend itself to art buying and working with creatives and advertising and finding the right artist and person for a brief. In the same way that you do that as a producer, you're building crews, you're putting teams together. So that's how I kind of fell into the industry, I suppose. How do they find us? On the internet. Everyone finds you on the internet, right? I think that's, unfortunately, people, I mean, that's the way society is, right? Everything's online. I mean, I do a lot of research online, but I think people come to us, and I make a habit of always seeing everyone that wants to come and see us. I think it's important in what we do to meet with people face to face, and I think when matching photographers or artists for a job, it's as much about the personality of that artist as it is with that creative or that client. So yeah, people come to us or people get referred to us through advertising agencies. I discovered Production Paradise when I was working in Sydney in Australia for an advertising agency, and we used to do a lot of work commissioning overseas artists as well. So you rely on companies like Production Paradise almost as a database of sorts to look up who's shooting still life or who's a great car photographer in the US, or just to be a bit more bespoke for those regions that you don't know as intimately as your own. I think that was my first exposure. And also a friend of mine who was a producer at the time, she was working on this amazing job for a hotel chain, and the client came out of the US, but they were shooting in the South Pacific region, and they found her specifically through Production Paradise. So, you know, that was another kind of light went off for me as another way of using it, and from a production point of view as well as an agency point of view. What I love about photography is that you've got one frame to tell the story, and you know, with motion you've got that ability to, you know, to transcend over time, whether it be a 60-second commercial or a 2-minute, you know, online film. I think with photography it's harder, and I think, and it's more powerful to me to see it as a one still image and to be successful, and that's what engages me, and that's what I find interesting about photography, and finding people that can do that in their own tone of voice and, you know, their own unique vision, and that's what I like. Yeah. I think for my work it's helpful when I'm looking for information outside my own network. So obviously I'm London based, and anything outside of that, it's always outside of the bigger places like New York and Paris and London. They're kind of, and Australia, because I'm Australian, they're kind of given to me. So whenever I have opportunities to work outside those zones, that's when it's really useful, you know, or a particular genre as well. You know, whether it be a great still life guy in Germany, you know, that's a great go-to to see. You know, it's like an art buyer's best friend or like a producer's best friend. I use it as a searching tool, you know, and I think also when we recently organised sort of a go-see trip to Amsterdam, and I use that to look up all the photographers agencies there, so we could arrange meetings with them to go and see them about, you know, their work and their artists, as well as, you know, obviously we know where the advertising agencies are, but I think the photographic agencies in Holland was like a completely, you know, new territory for us, so, you know, that was really useful. And we'll be doing a trip out to LA again soon as well, so I'll use them again for that. Production Paradise is an amazing database and collective or community of sorts for anyone working in the photographic industry or the advertising industry.